Today's submitted material explores an alternate history of the 2026 La Liga season, detailing the cascading tactical and financial consequences if a disallowed 61st-minute Real Madrid goal against Barcelona had stood. So, a key theme running through this material seems to be the analytical deconstruction of momentum. But we need to restructure the counter-argument so that it aggressively and directly targets the opponent's strongest statistical claims about late-season momentum before introducing its own broader points about Barcelona's tactical evolution.
Right, because right now the text relies heavily on these really broad season narratives in that section.
Exactly. It's missing that direct clash.
I mean, when an author sets up a highly analytical debate, the audience instinctively prepares for like a heavyweight intellectual bout. They want to see the ideas actually hit each other.
Yeah, and the initial argument does that well. It establishes this highly specific premise. It points out that Real Madrid had superior expected goals and progressive passes for, 22 of 38 match weeks?
Yeah, 22 weeks. And it argues their 5-match winning streak after the Clasico perfectly mirrored Mourinho's 2011-2012 title-winning momentum. That is a really sharp, aggressive thesis.
It is. But then the weakness is how the text responds to it. The counterargument just, it retreats. It falls back into this generalized praise of Lamine Yamal's 19-goal contributions and Hansi Flick's overall pressing architecture.
Right, it doesn't directly dismantle the opponent's statistical evidence about those final match weeks.
Exactly. And because of that, the two sides of the debate end up just completely talking past one another, which dilutes the intellectual tension. It is like a courtroom where the prosecution presents specific forensic evidence from a crime scene.
Like fingerprints or ballistics?
Right, and the defense responds by talking about the defendant's excellent character. I mean, they are having two completely different conversations.
Is there a risk that focusing solely on Barcelona's general DNA might overlook the specific vulnerabilities exposed in those final 7 matches?
Yes, definitely. The reader is holding all this very specific data about late-season winning streaks in their head, and the counterargument effectively ignores it to talk about the weather.
So how do we fix it?
Well, the suggestion is to restructure it to meet the opponent on their own turf first, defeat their premise directly, and then expand the scope. Let's use concrete examples, like the 1-0 Alaves defeat.
Oh, the one used to show Barcelona's drop in form?
Right. Currently, the text just treats it as a lingering negative stat. But what if you argue that Barcelona's drop in form only occurred because the title was already mathematically secured by that 5-point margin?
Oh, wow. So you frame Madrid's 5-game winning streak as, like, a total illusion of momentum?
Exactly. You argue they were racking up expected goals against teams with absolutely nothing left to play for, while Barcelona had basically already clocked out.
That is fascinating. It totally flips the context of the data.
Yeah, and you can back it up with technical mechanics too. Instead of just vaguely mentioning Pedri and Gavi controlling the tempo, you explicitly contrast their second-half tempo control against Real Madrid's specific claim of superior defensive line control.
I see. So you prove exactly why Barcelona's specific system neutralized Madrid's late-season statistical advantage.
Precisely. You take Madrid's strongest weapon and demonstrate how Barcelona used it against them. It transforms the counter-argument from a passive defense into an active dismantling.
That generates the exact kind of analytical heat this piece is striving for. Which actually leads us perfectly into the macro structure of the piece, because we have another major area where elements are sliding past each other.
Yes, the Mbappé contract scenario. For our second major area of focus, we need to weave the off-pitch financial stakes into the earlier on-pitch tactical arguments to create a unified narrative where every pass and pressing trigger directly impacts the future landscape of European football.
Yeah, it's an incredibly ambitious structural choice by the author, introducing this massive financial pivot that losing the title alters Mbappé's trajectory through 2029 and ruins Barcelona's free agent strategy. The stakes are astronomical.
They are, but the weakness is that the transition is just too abrupt, moving from deep, pitch-level tactical analysis of vertical transitions right into a massive macroeconomic shift regarding Mbappé feels totally disconnected.
It treats the financial pivot as a standalone wildcard add-on.
Right, rather than the ultimate high-stakes consequence of the tactical battle. We just discussed making the on-pitch arguments collide more directly. Similarly, the off-pitch consequences need to collide with the tactics. Right now, it reads like a tense sports thriller that suddenly turns into a Wall Street financial documentary in the third act.
Building on that point, what if we looked at it from the perspective of how the boardroom anxiety trickles down to Flick's touchline decisions?
That's exactly the suggestion here. You have to weave those off-pitch stakes into the earlier on-pitch arguments through foreshadowing. You don't want to stop the match to read a ledger, but the reader should feel the weight of a multi-million-euro contract in every single tackle.
So how does the author tangibly implement that without ruining the pacing?
A great concrete example is the section discussing Rafinha. The text brings up his 22-goal contributions purely as an on-pitch statistic. But you could foreshadow the transfer market stakes right there.
Oh, I see. Framing his performances like the necessary output that convinced the Barcelona boardroom they could pivot to Mbappé if Madrid collapsed?
Exactly. You tie the player's on-field success directly to the club's off-field financial confidence.
That's brilliant. It primes the reader. So when you get to the deep dive on the Mbappé contract later, it feels inevitable, not random.
Right. And another concrete way to weave this in applies to the catalyst itself. When debating the 61st minute Vinicius goal, emphasize that the VAR check wasn't just reviewing a potential 1-1 draw.
Oh, wow. They are actively deciding the fate of a massive performance clause in real time?
Yes. If the referee points to the center circle, he isn't just awarding a goal. He is effectively signing a contract extension for the most expensive player in the world.
That completely reframes the analysis. The on-pitch action and the financial fallout become two sides of the exact same coin.
Exactly, which perfectly sets up our final piece of the puzzle. Moving to the final main area, the author must ground the central turning point hypothetical in vivid, atmospheric details that capture the immediate psychological shift inside the stadium before zooming out to analyze the macro-level statistics.
Yeah, because right now, the emotional stakes of the 61st minute disallowed goal are presented strictly as a mechanical trigger.
That is the crucial weakness holding this piece back. It excels at macro-level analysis, but it glides right past the physical and psychological reality of the catalyst itself. By stripping the 61st minute of its sensory details, it fails to maximize the dramatic hook.
The human beings on the pitch just turn into abstract data points.
Precisely. The material makes a strong case for the statistical fallout by highlighting the match-week numbers, but the catalyst itself feels a bit clinical. It is like reading the brilliant engineering blueprint of a roller coaster without ever describing the feeling of the drop.
That makes sense, but could the evidence also support a deeper exploration of the psychological collapse in that specific moment, without, betraying the analytical tone?
Yes, because the emotion validates the statistics. The suggestion is to ground that turning point in atmospheric details first, and then zoom out. A concrete example. Describe the immediate shift in body language the exact second the referee allows the goal.
Right. Don't just say the score changed.
Exactly. Describe the heavy legs of an 18-year-old Lamine Yamal realizing the pressure just doubled, contrasted against the predatory energy of a veteran Real Madrid squad smelling blood in the water.
Oh, I love that. And you could push it further with the auditory experience, like describing this sudden, suffocating silence falling over the Spotify Camp Nou.
Yes, that dead silence is the perfect contrast to the ensuing panic on the touchline, where Flick is forced to instantly abandon his carefully structured pressing architecture just to chase the game.
Which leads right into the final 30 minutes of that Clasico. The author relies heavily on Barcelona's historically resilient DNA later in the text.
We'll show that DNA being tested under extreme heat right there. Show what it physically looks like to play under the weight of a collapsing 5-point margin. If you put the reader inside that suffocating anxiety, all the macro statistics presented later will carry 10 times the emotional weight.
It transforms a really good analytical essay into an immersive piece of sports history.
It absolutely does. Let's quickly recap the 3 main actionable steps we covered today. First, restructure the counter-argument so the tactical debate directly addresses late-season momentum, like using the Alaves defeat to recontextualize Madrid's winning streak.
Second, thread the massive financial implications of the Mbappé contract throughout the on-pitch analysis, foreshadowing boardroom stakes during tactical discussions.
And finally, inject visceral, atmospheric tension into the 61st minute turning point to anchor the statistics in human drama, drafting sensory details for the catalyst moment before zooming out. We warmly invite you to implement these revisions and submit the updated material back in for further review.
Yeah, we would love to see how this evolves.
Thanks for tuning in to The Critique, and we'll catch you next time.